Every sport has its great rivalries. Boxing had Ali versus Frazier, baseball has the Red Sox and the Yankees, and Formula One is no exception. The ever-shifting sands of battles between teams and drivers create new and engaging storylines every year. In this video, we'll talk about the thrilling rivalry between two F1 greats, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and why it could be one of the great rivalries in F1. So let's get straight into it. First off, both of them are generational talents. One of the best parts of this rivalry is how massively different the two protagonists are in terms of where they are in their careers and lives. On one side, we have the 37-year-old British driver Lewis Hamilton. He's a global superstar, a 7-time world champion, and an increasingly vocal advocate of social change. Hamilton has won more races than any other driver in F1, and he's currently sitting at joint top of the all-time list of world championships with Michael Schumacher, with 7 championships in the bag. An 8 drivers championship would make Lewis Hamilton the undisputed GOAT of F1. On the other end, we have the 25-year-old Dutch driver Max Verstappen. He keeps a much lower profile away from racing. Verstappen won his first ever F1 championship after snatching the title from under the nose of Hamilton last year in Abu Dhabi. That final showdown in Abu Dhabi is the kind of stuff Hollywood filmmakers dream of. Their rivalry is a classic tale of two generations clashing. It's hard not to find that kind of storyline compelling. Next, both of them are really similar too. Lewis and Max share a few similarities. Both of them were seen as prodigious talents from an early age. Max entered F1 in 2015, earmarked as a future world champion. Mercedes and Red Bull both wanted him in their program. Ultimately, it was Red Bull's ability to give him an immediate racing seat with their junior team, Toro Rosso. Mercedes couldn't match Red Bull's offer. That might have been something, Verstappen and Lewis battling it out on the same team. Hamilton won a championship just in his second season with McLaren after a near miss as a rookie, but wasn't a polished driver in the early years of his career. Hamilton's form was frustratingly erratic before he joined Mercedes in 2013. One race he'd claim a stunning victory, and on another race week, he'd get into a crash. Verstappen's early years in F1 were similar in that sense. An unbelievable talent, he became the youngest F1 race winner in the Spanish GP in 2016 in his first race with Red Bull, but in his aggressive racing style was criticized by 3 former world champions, Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen, and Hamilton himself. Moving on, they also raced for 2 evenly matched teams. The stars aligned in almost a perfect way for Red Bull last year. Mercedes and Hamilton have dominated F1 since 2014, and they haven't missed out on a championship that way. Honda and Red Bull's partnership effectively struck gold in 2021. Honda had a horrible turn of events with McLaren from 2015 to 2017, but the progress they made with Red Bull was clear in the years after they joined forces in 2019. Red Bull's car-building prowess is as strong as it's ever been. They now have a car that can directly compete with Mercedes on the front row of the grid. We've witnessed Red Bull's exuberant pace this season as Mercedes are still struggling with their car. A change in the technical regulations for the 2021 season also gave an advantage to Red Bull. FIA wanted the teams to cut parts of the floor and simplify the designs of the barge board and rear brake ducts. It may sound very tedious and techy, but those changes had a negative and more significant impact on the design philosophy of Mercedes than Red Bull. Mercedes lost serious ground that year, while Red Bull made relative gains. Not to mention, Verstappen rose to the role of a championship contender. At the end of the day, it all comes down to who's behind the wheel. Max Verstappen supremely rose to the role of a championship contender. Verstappen said he found most parts of 2019 and 2020 boring, as he'd often been racing on his own for P3. Some people at Red Bull have revealed that Verstappen can stay calm and robotic during the most intense phases of the season. While everyone knows he was very talented when he made his debut, this year has been a confirmation of his incredible talents, as he has just won his 2nd championship in a row. Moving on, we've seen some superb performances from these two. Before we get on to the controversies and collisions between the two, it's important to remember both drivers have provided us with some sensational racing performances we've ever seen. Verstappen has had many incredibly rounded performances. He's been faultless in the majority of his races this season and throughout his career, and has dominated every race. Sometimes it looks like he's the only person driving on the track without anyone behind him. We haven't seen some outstanding performances from Hamilton this season, but we have witnessed his greatness in the previous season. For example, last year in the Brazilian GP, his fight back through the field both in sprint qualifying and then the race itself was a magical showcase of all his special talents. It was a reminder that he often performs at his best when he feels that his back's against the wall. His victory at the opening Bahrain GP last year was also impressive. He was able to hold off Verstappen's much faster Red Bull, which was on a fresh set of tires toward the end of the race. Let's talk about near misses and collisions on track. 2021 was the year when we saw both of them coming at each other with everything they've got. That was the year that gave birth to their rivalry. Last season, the duo collided on 3 different occasions. The first crash happened at the British GP. Lewis Hamilton hit Verstappen as the Red Bull racer was trying to overtake him around the outside of Copse Corner in the first lap of the race. Red Bull's team principal Principal Christian Horner labeled Hamilton's move as amateurish and said that Hamilton had put Max's safety in jeopardy. It was a scary crash, no doubt. Hamilton and Mercedes suggested that Max could have gone wide and prevented what happened. Hamilton received a time penalty but fought back through the field to win that race. Max Verstappen was sent to the hospital for precautionary checkups. Red Bull was furious at Hamilton for only getting a 10-second penalty. The crash resulted in Red Bull losing an engine. They had to pay a huge repair bill in the first year under F1's cost cap. Let's not forget about their crash at the Italian GP. A second crash followed at the Italian GP in 2021. Max tried to pass Hamilton on the inside of the first chicane but ended up on top of Hamilton's car in the gravel trap. Toto Wolff labeled Max's move as a professional foul, and the stewards agreed that Max was the one to blame on that occasion. They handed Max a 3-place grid drop for the next race. Now for their third and strangest crash. Their strangest collision happened at the Saudi Arabian GP in 2021. While defending his lead, Max ran himself and Hamilton off the track at turn 1. Red Bull asked him to give the position back to Hamilton, and he slowed down dramatically in the middle of the back straight to do so. Hamilton was unaware that Verstappen was about to give the position back to him, and he ended up crashing into the rear of his car. Hamilton said that Max was crazy, while Red Bull and Max were wondering why he didn't pass him from the left side. Stewards blamed Max for this one too, when the data found from his car showed that he slammed the brakes right in front of Hamilton, resulting in the crash. Apart from these collisions, there have been some close calls too. At Imola GP, Max forced Hamilton wide while wrestling the lead from him. The most significant was at the Brazilian GP. Once again, Max forced Hamilton wide to defend the lead. Hamilton went wide to avoid a crash. Mercedes appealed his move, but Max's move went unpunished. Following up, the rivalry is a clash of styles. A rivalry in F1 isn't just about two brilliant drivers. It also requires a clash of styles and some key points of difference in strategy. And this difference in driving styles is what really makes Verstappen and Hamilton's rivalry so exciting. Hamilton's driving is all about clean racing. He has the ability to calculate the risk or reward of a situation. We've often seen him backing out from a chase in order to avoid a crash. Max, on the other hand, is on the more aggressive side, and his aggressive approach has worked for him so far. Finally, this rivalry is not over yet. With Hamilton keen on staying with Mercedes and Verstappen, well, he's just getting started. This rivalry is already up there with the greatest in the sport's history. If both of them continue with the same intensity, this rivalry has the potential to go down as the greatest F1 rivalry of all time. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think this is the greatest rivalry in F1? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.